So this is my camp chair. I carried this from Maine to Florida. This is 2 pounds, so this is not for the ultralight crowd.
We're Dre and Wiley from Suits to Sandals. We spent the last 74 days through biking the East Coast Greenway from Maine to Florida with the real star of the show, our Siberian Husky Misha in tow. Follow along as we navigate our first through biking tour over 2,893 miles down the east coast of the United States. Hi guys, it's Dre and Wiley from Suits to Sandals. It's been a little while since we've posted anything up on our channel. We've been kind of busy. We just finished the East Coast Greenway through biking. This was our first through bike ever. And this video, we just want to discuss what we brought with us, what our gear was, what was necessary, what wasn't necessary. We decided to take a 68-pound luxury item, which was our Siberian Husky Misha. We wanted to take her with us, so we do have a lot of extra stuff that we packed because of her. She's also diabetic, so this might help you if you're interested in bringing your dog along. If you're not, you can kind of ignore those items, but we just wanted to go through the breakdown of everything that we took with us on our 74-day trip of the East Coast Greenway.
And like Dre said, this is not something we've done before. This is definitely our first time doing any long distance bike ride more than probably 25 miles prior to the trip. The good news is we had a lot of the stuff we already needed because we're really into the outdoors and hiking and camping.
Yeah, I think a lot of things transitioned because we also have our van. So some of the stuff that we use in our van, we were also able to bring with us bike packing. And like Wiley said, for hiking as well. So we didn't have to buy a lot of stuff in order to get into through biking. So we're going to start with Wiley. We're going to have him show his bike and his gear and break down everything he has in his panniers.
Panniers, you decide.
We don't know.
So this video is coming from the perspective, as Dre mentioned, of two people that have never through biked before. We didn't even have the bikes we were using for this trip until 3 weeks before we left. So we're not going to pretend that we're experts or that we know what we're doing and we've been there, done that, and tried and tested all the things that we carried. This is just what we figured out that we thought we needed for this trip, and at the end we'll probably show you what we didn't need to bring as well. Being that we chose to do a bike tour in a year that a pandemic was happening, there was a serious bike shortage across the country. We didn't care if we were riding new versus used. We just wanted to make sure we had the right tool for the job. So this was actually a used bike that I was able to find and purchase online, and I didn't see a bike that fit my liking for months and months and months. This one popped up one day and I had to grab it. The bike I came across that I paid a lot of attention to and couldn't find anywhere was the Massey Giramondo steel frame touring bike. The reason I was attracted to it, it comes in a 27.5 wheel option as well as 700C. I thought that would be pretty unique because I had aspirations to do a big east to west or west to east trip on the Trans-America Trail, which is 80% off-road. So when I was doing all my research, I wasn't thinking about on-road touring only. I was also thinking about off-road. This bike is a 52-inch frame, which would be a large. I'm 6 foot tall, 165 pounds, give or take. Fit perfect right out of the box, so to speak. I didn't have a professional fitting or anything like that before this trip. I just set it to what I felt comfortable with and adjusted along the way. So when I bought my bike used, it did not come with any racks, any panniers, or anything like that. For this trip, we decided we were going to be self-sufficient, so we wanted to be able to carry everything that we needed for every step of the way along the trip. Underneath and behind the panniers is the Tubus Cargo Evo rack. It's basically a very heavy-duty, hefty rack with lots of attachment points and lots of structure. Had great reviews online and can hold a lot of weight and can take a beating, which is what I was looking for. I personally am very good at breaking stuff on our adventures, so I wanted something that would last and that was durable. So for storage, we opted for Ortlib panniers. The back is the Back Roller Classic. This is a 20-liter setup. On the front, we went with the gravel pack 12.5 liter bags. On top, you can see that I basically used dry bags for extra storage. The idea was that the panniers and the dry bags are all waterproof, so that's going to keep all our stuff dry. On the front, I have 2 feed bags and a handlebar bag that are made by Hermit Packs. And then you can see I strapped our tent poles right to my top tube. So this is my first rear bag. There's a small pocket inside, which is really good for kind of tucking random things into. So I'll start there. I had some extra straps because you never know when you're going to need them. An extra phone holder, which you'll see it's a handlebar mounted phone holder. We had an extra locking mechanism for Misha's trailer in case we broke that one. More straps, chain lube, dry lube and wet lube. I put everything that could spill in plastic bags to make sure they didn't become a pool in the bottom of my pannier. Little plastic bag full of all the miscellaneous hardware, a couple extra bolts and nuts that go on the bike, a couple extra straps for our front and rear tail lights, a couple batteries. That was pretty handy. In one pannier, I had a pair of jeans, which I wore almost every day until we got to really hot weather, so that was a good thing to bring. On the other pannier, which you'll see in a minute, I had a hoodie. Safety first. This is a safety vest that we would wear in high traffic areas or if it was getting closer to dark. These are something we already had from some Ragnar races and things that we had done in the past. So we did carry this. GoPro chest mount. I had a GoPro chest mount on me virtually the entire trip, and I was basically turning it on and off whenever I saw something that was worth filming. A couple rags. I brought some what were clean microfibers to clean up spills, wipe down the bikes. I had a plastic bag as well for the one that I used on the chain. As you can see, it definitely got used to clean and lubricate the chain. Plastic bag to collect needles. These are needles that we use to give Maishi insulin twice a day. Dog food. This is not a dry bag, but very handy way to carry dog food. I could carry about 6 pounds of dog food between the 2 panniers, and that would last us about a week. Headlamp. Something that you definitely want to have if you plan on doing any camping. You definitely want it to work. Mine is malfunctioning / broken, so for most of the trip I didn't really touch it, so got to work on that. Camp pot. This is just a grease pot, cheap $7 pot that we've had forever for camping. Good pot to cook in. Takes a beating, especially when it's in a pannier and you knock your bike over probably 25 times between Maine and Florida. Inside of it, I just stashed the handle, lighter, the stove, and some extra paracord basically in case I needed it to hang food or anything like that. Coleman butane propane mix for the stove. I brought 2 pairs of gloves on this trip. Long figured gloves and short gloves, basically for different temperatures while we're on the road. I got a $15 Blackburn pump. This was what I used anytime we got a flat or to add air to the tires in the morning before we left. Worked flawlessly, still works, hasn't broke, has a gauge on it, which is very helpful if you're trying to put in a specific amount of pressure. So this is my food bag. It's looking a little light because we obviously finished the trip, but it was usually much more full of a little bit of everything. Instant coffee, peanut butter crackers. I've still got some red beans and rice. Got some pasta sides, Cliff bars, Propel mix to have something to drink other than water. You eventually get sick of drinking water not too far into the trip. So in my other rear pannier, we had the stuff that you see right here. And there's actually no rhyme or reason as to what's in which side, other than the fact that when we left, I was very intense about laying everything out, weighing it, and making sure that it was balanced. So weight-wise, they were within easily less than a half of a pound of each other when we left, and I tried to stick to that for each pannier. So starting from the top, this is a drone that I brought along the trip. Ziploc bags, can't go wrong with those. Butt butter, especially in the beginning of the trip. If you aren't a trained cyclist like we were not when we left, your butt appreciates this. This is a Big Blue 21 watt solar charger, not sponsored. I'm really into solar. I've been into it ever since we built our van, and it has solar panels on top. I wanted the ability to charge our phones, our battery banks in the sun should we need to if we were off the grid for any extended length of time. Turned out we weren't off the grid really that much on this trip, but I did use it a couple of times and it actually worked really well. So I am a fan, just a personal passion of mine. I brought a hoodie. So as I mentioned before, I had the jeans in one pannier. Here's my hoodie I had in the other. It was like my casual clothes pretty much every day on the trip. So in this bag is where I housed my 30,000 milliamp battery bank to charge my cell phone and my headlight and tail light when necessary. I also had a light in here that we used to illuminate the tent at night while we were hanging out and getting situated before we went to bed. This is a wrench that I carried specifically because it's the size of the bolt that attached the kickstand that I had. My kickstand did not cooperate with my bike frame very nicely. It kept getting loose. My bike kept tipping over and I kind of got annoyed with it. So I actually removed it midway through the trip. Another plastic bag with some bike degreaser and a bracket and a few bolts, just extras in case we needed them. This is the other bag of dog food that we brought for Maisha. I always tried to keep them even on both sides as far as weight was concerned. This is my camp towel. This is from REI, and this is what I used as a shower towel for the whole trip. Pretty good size. Did a good job. It's got a mesh-like lining in the front so you can dry it out if it's not fully dry when you're on the road. This is going to make a lot of bikers cringe for sure. I did carry Crocs on this trip. Never had Crocs before this trip. We watched some other YouTubers, Nomad Trails, and I noticed that he was a huge fan of pedaling around in Crocs for this type of cycling, and I thought I'd give it a go, and I did enjoy them. I actually wore them quite a bit. Not in the beginning of the trip because it was colder temperatures, but in the warmer temperatures, I definitely wore them a lot. I also wore Bedrock sandals, and these were because I figured we wanted to have something open-toed and can get a little breeze and keep the feet cool while you're riding in the hot temperatures. And these are extremely sturdy and durable, so unlike a regular sandal, they weren't going to break down or break on us along the way. So these were fantastic. Did I need two? Probably not, but it was nice to have both. The sun and I don't get along. If I'm out in the sun too long, I burn instantly. So if I wear these, the tops of my feet would get a little toasty. So the next day I would wear the Crocs, and I'd kind of just alternate back and forth, and that worked out pretty nice for me. And these make a good casual shoe in the hotels and campgrounds as well. For the first front pannier, mainly it was clothes and toiletries. And one of the things that we crossed over from the van were these travel cubes. So the smaller one was for my toiletries, and the larger one was for shorts and pants and things like that. So I brought a pair of mesh gym shorts that was for casual wear for sleeping. I brought a bathing suit, being that we were doing the East Coast Greenway. I figured we'd be near some beaches and some water, which we were, but mostly not until Florida. These are my hiking pants, which I already had before the trip. The bottoms zip off, so they turn into shorts. So basically for the first half of the trip, I mainly wore the pants. And as it got warmer, I zipped them off and treated them as shorts. Once we permanently entered warm weather, I pretty much lived in these. These are actually shorts I already had that were my mountain biking shorts, which are very comfortable for that. Brought a pair of sweatpants for those cooler nights. We did tent camp in low to mid 30-degree weather. I think 34, 35 was the low one of the nights. I was not a happy camper. For my toiletries, pretty basic. I have some dental floss, chapstick, some shave balm for after shaving. I brought some bar soap that I hold closed with a hair tie. Deodorant, toothbrush, toothpaste, razor. These are the equivalent of Q-tips, but they're reusable so that we aren't throwing away a lot of waste. Baby powder. This is actually a container we use for shampoo and conditioner. We use bar shampoo and conditioner. And some hair product to tame this crazy hair that I have. So in my other front pannier is mainly my shirts and more clothing. When we rode the East Coast Greenway, we rode south from Maine to Key West, and we knew we were going to see a really wide range of temperatures from the 30s, up until the mid to high 80s. So we went with the layering system. So I'll start with the warmest one. This is a Smart Wool 200 level base layer, very lightweight, very warm. This thing was fantastic. I wore it for the majority of the trip. This is also merino wool, just a lighter long sleeve for those in-between temperatures. And then I had two kind of synthetic performance t-shirts. These were just my general riding shirts. Another one that's long sleeve. This was my casual wear, my evening wear, my fancy shirt of my trip here. Actually, just a lightweight, buttoned down, well ventilated shirt that I got at REI, and that's just to keep me somewhat cool in the very hot temperatures. I was wearing this primarily in Florida to keep the sun off me. For this trip, I brought 3 pairs of underwear, 2 pair of Smart Wool, 1 ex officio synthetic men's boxer. All did very well, worked perfectly for me. For the colder days, I actually have Smart Wool thermals. Those were definitely utilized in the northern states for sure. 1 pair of Smart Wool socks. These were primarily for evening time. This is what I wore once we went to camp and when I slept. For the riding, I had 3 pairs of performance socks. 1 a little bit taller, 2 short, and these 2 I actually picked up along the way. So we stopped in Baltimore at Joe's bike shop on the coldest, rainiest, worst day we had probably on the whole trip, and they came out and gave us a hand with a few things on Dre's bike, and they threw us a couple pairs of socks to get us all the way down. So shout out to them. That was extremely helpful. This is my Patagonia Puffy. We've had this for a long time. This is something that we used for our other adventures, and we like how it packs down so small, but is also very warm. Hooded jacket. No complaints about that. This was part of my toiletries. Being able to grow a beard in a matter of a couple of days, I brought a trimmer to keep it under control. And I almost forgot. I brought 1 t-shirt for the entire trip. My first original t-shirt that I brought made it all the way to Georgetown, South Carolina. And we stayed at a very nice Airbnb, and somehow I managed to leave my t-shirt there, and we were already many miles down the road before we figured that out. 1 t-shirt really fit the bill for me. It was just to get out of the performance wear once we got to our hotel or our campsite or whatever it might be. So on top of my rear rack is where I housed the 20-liter dry bag that was full of basically the camping gear. So whenever we got to a campsite, dropped this bag on the ground next to the tent, and this is everything that pretty much went inside. So first things first, I brought a tarp. That was to go under the tent just to protect it from punctures and rocks and dirt and things like that. This is a inflatable camp pillow that I use. This is a sleeping bag liner. For those extra cold nights, this gives you a couple more degrees to keep you warm. And when I sleep at night in the cold, I'm in a mummy bag with a liner, with long johns, zip up jacket, hood. I'm in there. I like to be warm. This is my inflatable sleeping pad that I brought. I'm not going to blow it up for you, but this was keeping me off the ground in the evenings. And just in case you ever had a problem or a puncture, the repair kit as well. Always a good thing to have. In the bottom of my bag was my rain gear. I have very durable rain gear. It's very noisy, PVC, nylon. Guaranteed not to get wet under these when you have them on. So when it was pouring, luckily we only needed them about twice on the whole trip, but when it was downpouring, basically my hands and my feet were cold and freezing, but the rest of me was dry. And I used a 30-degree sleeping bag for this trip. Everything that you see here we had before this bike packing adventure, so this is all equipment that we already had ready to go. And in my front bag is where I kind of kept a random assortment of things. I kept my beanie hat and winter gloves in that bag in case it got cold. We did bring a Sawyer squeeze, so this is a platypus bag to hold the water in case we needed to filter our own water. I kept the bike lock there as well. This is a bike lock that we had for our mountain bikes, so this was something that we already had prior to leaving on the trip. In terms of being prepared for flats, we decided it was a smart idea to carry tubes for both bikes and the trailer at all times. So no tubeless tires or anything like that for this trip, all tubes. So I have the 16-inch for my use trailer, the 27.5 for my bike, and the 700C for Dre's bike. And we always had two of all of them. So if we got a flat, we had to make it a point to find a bike shop along the route to replenish it. Luckily, we never needed both and were left stranded. Last but not least, Dre's absolute favorite thing that I carried on this trip. We'll call this a luxury item. And I, for some reason, decided I wanted to have a camp chair. I figured with all the camping that we were going to be doing and the beaches that we were going to be going to and sitting on a bike seat for close to 3,000 miles that I would want a chair to sit in that would be comfortable for when I got to where I was going. And I'm not going to set it up right now, but this is my camp chair that I might have only used twice on the whole trip, and Dre won't let me live that down. So for anything that didn't fit in the panniers but was still attached to the bike in some way, shape, or form, I've just pulled off and put all in a row here. So I always had sunglasses on me, cell phone, which was in a cell phone holder that fits on a handlebar. Found this on Amazon right before the trip. We also found our headlight and taillights on Amazon as well. These are the tent poles. Dre carried the tent, I carried the poles. Just strapped them to the top tube of my bike. As for water, we used two aluminum. I used two aluminum water bottles just because I figured they would be able to take any abuse along the way. Also, as mentioned before, two Nalgene's. Mainly I use this water for Misha. And these are our feed bags. These were a great size because they did fit the Nalgene's, so they fit in there perfectly. They had elastic at the top to keep them from falling out. And this one actually has a built-in whistle on it as well. They're reflective and water resistant. And they were actually built by somebody that Dre went to high school with. So we were happy to support his business and buy his bags. This is the handlebar bag, which I had a knife, not for safety, but for utility. If somebody wanted my stuff bad enough, they could have it. Inside of this bag, I carried all my charging cords and cables. I accumulated quite a bit of loose change because I hate carrying change in my pockets and using it, so I just put it all in a Ziploc bag. My buff, a strap. This is actually extremely handy for biking with pants on. It's reflective and it's Velcro, and it actually holds your pants away from your chain so you don't ruin your pants. This is my spork, straight out of the van. Some sunscreen, some chamois butter, and then it's even got a little side pocket here for some Advil, chapstick, and anything else you want to sneak in there. Last but not least, this is a tool bag that I had on a road bike, and this just has a multi-tool, which I ended up using quite a bit to tune up the bikes, to tune up the brakes and the derailleurs. It had some bike levers, plastic and metal. I carried a little bit of the nitrogen to inflate the tubes, and we did have to use it. I had 2 flats, Dre had 2 flats, and Misha had 2 flats from Maine to Florida. So overall, I don't think that was too terrible. So when we left, we knew we needed some straps. We just didn't know what was going to be the best for us. So I did pick up this Volley strap or straps. Saw some good reviews online about how they worked and everything. They are kind of stretchy and flexible, and they can be set to almost any size. So they were handy. I used them, but I wouldn't do a raving review about them because this is what I held down my back dry bag with. This classic bungee style cord is what I used to hold down the front, and it did just as well.
I went with the Surly disc trucker, and the only reason why I went with it was because basically Surly was what was popping up every time I was looking for a touring bike. And then I went on to Surly's website and did their little quiz to find out what would be best for what I'm trying to do and what I want to do in the future for as far as bike touring. And the disc trucker kept on popping up. I found mine used as well. You can't buy new bikes right now, but I'm totally fine with getting it secondhand. And this bike fit me perfectly. So I have the 56 disc trucker and I'm 5'10". And in the beginning, we were alternating bikes because of the trailer. We only had one hitch. And for my husband, that's six foot as well. It's a perfect size for both of us. So if you're on the taller side, a 56 is really good size. To go over packs real quick, I have the same setup he does. I went with the Roller Classic Ortlieb in the back. These are 20 liters. In the front, I went with the gravel packs, which are 12.5 liters. I only needed one dry pack, so I had this already. I think I got it from Walmart for very cheap. And then in the front, I had the 2 feed bags by Hermit pack and the front handlebar pack. I do like it, but I think if we did another tour this long, I would want something a little bit bigger because I like to have all the camera gear in the front pack, and this one was a little bit on the smaller side for me. I will go through everything I have in my packs. So in one of my rear bags, I packed a sarong. I actually bring this on every adventure. It's really versatile. Mainly on this trip, I used it as something to lay down in the tent for Misha to lay on. And then I also brought this comfy pillowcase that had a little bit of cushioning in it for on the colder nights for her to lay on, just to keep her a little bit warmer. So those 2 things ended up being for Misha. I also brought my Bedrock sandals, and I used these a lot once we got to warmer weather in Florida. I love these sandals, and they worked really well on the bike. The Crocs I would use as camp shoes in the evening, so as soon as we got to wherever we got, I would put these on. It was just nice and comfy to kind of walk around with these on, so those were worth bringing, and they're super light. I also had a little pack for Maisha's random stuff, so like if she was at camp at night, I'd put the glowy collar on her so I could see where she was and what she was getting into. We have a test kit for her because she's diabetic, so we could check her blood sugars to make sure that she was still in target. And then Musher's Secret, which is just good. She would do a couple miles a day, and if her pads were getting cracked or sore, I would put this on her feet to help protect her feet. I also brought laundry soap and dryer sheets. We use the strip laundry soap so that we didn't have to worry about liquid spilling. True Earth is the company, and they're really awesome. So we use these at home. And a good thing for bike packers to know about, maybe they don't know about this, you didn't have to buy laundry soap when you went to the laundromat. And they're super lightweight. Extra baggies. You can never have enough of these. This was just an extra phone holder for the same phone holder that Wiley has. I did bring my Sawyer Squeeze, but didn't have to use it. But this is the syringe to clean it. I think if we did a trip out west, it would have been way more worthwhile having. This is my Go Girl. I use this in the van all the time, and it's just a nice thing when you have to like stop and you're in the middle of nowhere and go pee, and highly recommend the Go Girl funnel. My food bag, it's really empty right now, but we used to keep about 4 or 5 days worth of food in here. So that would basically take up a majority of this bag, but because it's so empty, it doesn't look like much is in here. I had extra batteries for the tail light that was on Maisha's trailer. A couple extra carabiners, they're just nice to have. This was our vest, so we already had this from some of the running competitions we did at night, and it was really nice to have in busy high traffic places like South Carolina and Georgia and Florida. So once we got down to the Carolinas, we pretty much wore our vest every single day. Some extra food, mixed nuts, some green superfood. We probably should have ate this a lot more because once we got down to like Virginia, we were really junking out and just eating as many calories as possible. This was a good like supplement, but we didn't use it enough. A little Gorilla Pod tripod. This was for the GoPro, just to get some riding by shots, and you can kind of put it anywhere or hang it from anything. I didn't use this as much as I thought I was going to. It was kind of a production to film while through biking, so I didn't really use it as much as I thought I was going to. But I would think I would still bring it on another bike trip. I had long gloves as well. I use these for mountain biking, so I already had these. And then I bought a new pair of shorty gloves because my other ones were ripping. A little bit of Advil and a tennis ball for Maisha. These straps are the same straps that Wiley had, but I didn't use them. So I carried them for almost 3,000 miles and didn't use them. I didn't really like them, so. So in my other rear bag, I had my Patagonia Nano Puff as well. We love this jacket. We've had it for several years, and it's been on lots of adventures with us, and it's really good for a layering system. I had 2 tubes that I carried, but I got a flat in Florida, so I only have 1 tube left, but we always kept 2 tubes with us. I brought my trowel, my Deuces Spades. I use this for backpacking and hiking, and I did have to use it once on the trip, so it was nice to have. I had some Vicks Vapor Rub because when we left the trip in October, I had a terrible head cold, and then Wiley got it as well, so it was nice to have. I also have the Outdoorsman Lab inflatable sleeping pad. These are like $40 on Amazon, and it held up really well, and we've been using this for backpacking trips. It's a nice, cheaper alternative than the expensive Thermarest inflatables. I like it, just not as high R value. I have the Trekology blow-up pillow. As you can see, this thing's been used many times. I should probably wash it. It's pretty gross, but I love this pillow, and it's only a couple ounces. I bought the Sea to Summit liner for my sleeping bag, and I only used it like once. I think if we got down into like low 30s or high 20s, I would have needed it, but I only used mine a couple times. This was just a stuff pack or a stuff sack to put my propane in for my stove. My cooking pot is from my backpacking gear, and I have the Toaks titanium 750 ml, and I really like this pot. And inside of it, I just keep a small Bic lighter, my Sawyer squeeze. I didn't need to use it on this trip, but I feel like I would just always take it on every backpacking or bikepacking trip just because it's nice to have clean water. Some duct tape, and these really lightweight 2 ounce, probably not even 2 ounce stoves that we got off of Amazon, and we've had them for years, and they work great, and they're about $15 on Amazon, so I really like these. The last thing I had in this pack was, this is a GoPro case that came with the GoPro Hero 9, so I had a couple extra memory cards in here, a couple cables. This was the taillight that we were using for Maisha. It was battery powered, so we upgraded and got ones that were rechargeable. More Advil and battery pack for the GoPros. So that's all I carried in this pack. So in my front bags is where I had my clothes and my toiletries. Like Wiley already mentioned, we were going to have a range of weather because we left in Maine in early October, and we knew we were getting down to Florida in December. So we wanted to layer. These black leggings I got off Amazon for like $25. They're just cheap leggings, and these were pretty much what I rode 80% of the ride in. I also had another pair, and these pair I would only use in the evening. So these were like my clean pair, and these were my pair that I would ride in. I had a pair of smart wool socks that I would wear at camp just to keep my feet warm. I brought 2 tank tops. I didn't really need both of them because we didn't have a lot of warm weather, so I think if I packed again and we knew we were going to be in like the same colder climate, I'd probably only pack one of them. Did have a bathing suit, used it a couple times. I also had icebreaker wool base layer. These are merino wool 260, so they're really warm. I didn't have to wear these at all. I'm not as cold-blooded as my husband. I was warm enough in my sleeping bag, so I'm glad I packed them in case it got cold enough, but I didn't have to wear them at all. But good insurance to stay warm. This is also by Icebreaker, and this is a 260 as well, so it's super warm. And I wore this almost every single day on the trip. So I would just have a synthetic shirt underneath and then this over it, and this was keeping me warm enough for majority of the bicycle ride. So really glad I brought this. This is from Mountain Hardwear, and it's just a hooded long sleeve thermal, and it was basically what I would wear when I wasn't cycling to keep me warm. And then I brought some capri leggings for the warmer weather. These I would use as soon as it got warm enough, over like 60 degrees, I'd wear these. I did have another long sleeve merino wool. I'd wear this sometimes in camp, but I never rode in it, but I could have. But I tended to just use it for a camp shirt. And then lastly for clothing, we picked this up from REI. It was supposed to be a sun shirt. I didn't wear this at all, but I feel like if we went out west and did a bike touring trip, I would want to wear this if we were out in the sun nonstop. Be a nice thing to have, but didn't end up using it. As far as toiletries, oil for my hair, because I have long hair, my retainer. We picked up this healing ointment. We had sore butts the first 2 weeks that we were riding because we didn't use padded shorts, but we didn't want, we chose to not use padded shorts, and it did really help heal our butts quickly. Razor, some lotion, Diva cup. I packed 2 of them, so if one of them was dirty, I still had another one. This is a good alternative to tampons and pads. We use Bar shampoo and conditioner, and we've been using Bar shampoo and conditioner for a couple years now. It's really nice in the van, and it was nice for bike packing because you don't have to worry about it spilling, and these will last a couple months, and they're lightweight. Toothbrush, some sunscreen, toothpaste, brush, and some Dr. Bronner's soap. So that's all I had in this bag. And I also had all my toiletries in this smaller packing cube, and all my clothes fit in this packing cube. So it's just a nice, easy way to stay organized. So in my other front bag, I had more clothes. We basically didn't ship anything home whether we were in warm or cold weather because it still got cold even in warm areas. So I had a t-shirt. It was just nice to have a cotton t-shirt on after, a shower or wherever we got, so you felt kind of clean at the end of the night. These were just some biking shorts that I picked up at Old Navy for very cheap, and these were nice for when we were in Florida. I wore those a lot. I brought 5 pairs of ex officio underwear. These underwear are awesome. So they are easy to dry, and you can wash them in the sink if you need a clean pair for the next day. And they dry really quick, and I use them for hiking, biking, whatever. So I already had those, and I love those. Highly recommend those. I had 2 sports bras. So one I would ride in every single day, and then I put a clean one on in the evening. So I had a camp one and one that I rode in. And then I got 3 pairs of Smartwill cycling socks, and it was nice to have the wool socks because your feet didn't get as stinky with the wool. This was my camp towel, similar to Wiley's. I've had this thing forever, and it just dries quick. This is my Z seat. I use this for backpacking, and it's just like a little pad that you can sit on. This was my chair, 2 ounces instead of 2 pounds. I actually did use mine a lot, so I highly recommend this over the 2-pound camp chair for biking or camping. I did have a little first aid kit, and it just had some Band-Aids, gauze, some Pepto, tweezers, some insecticide, stuff like that. I used it a couple times. Some sweatpants. Picked these up at REI. They're just warm and lightweight, so these worked really well for the trip for nights that we were tent camping. Some shorts I didn't ride in these, but these were like when we were in Florida and it was hot after we got done riding, I'd switch into these. Another pair of capri leggings. They don't take up a lot of space, so I brought 2 pairs of these. And then lastly, I had 2 of these shirts from REI, and these are just the athletic, REI's version shirts. And so after one got really stinky, then I'd switch to the other one, and then hopefully by then we'd be able to do some laundry. So that's all I had in this pack. So this is everything that I had in the dry pack that was in my rear rack. And basically I had the tent, Wiley had the poles. So I had my REI 30-degree sleeping bag, which I really like. It's actually a men's synthetic bag. This was the tent fly and the actual tent. We went with the UL Tigerwall 3-person tent, and it worked out really well for the 2 of us and the dog. It was just enough space. So highly recommend. It's a really lightweight tent, pretty durable, and has good ventilation. I did pick up the footprint for it too, but I just didn't like it or trust it. I felt like it was a little too thin and would tear through, so we ended up using the tarp way more than the footprint. So I think I would forgo the footprint for $80 and just go with a $10 tent from Walmart. I didn't like the footprint. My rain pants, I actually didn't even have to wear on this trip. Wiley, as he mentioned, we only had 2 days of rain, but I'm still glad that I brought them. I've had these forever. I don't even know what brand. Marmot. I mean, they're torn. They're duct taped in the butt. So I've had them for a very long time, but they still work well. And then also have a Frog Togs jacket that I think was like a $40 jacket, but it does the job. And had to wear this once the whole entire trip, but it's nice and lightweight and always nice to have. So glad I brought all this stuff. Happy with all this gear. I had 2 feed bags as well, and they were also made by Hermit, so I was able to pick my colors. I picked brown, my favorite color, and it's got nice reflectors on it, and they're just really well made. We really liked these feed bags. And the first one, I had my Nalgene. I was carrying 2 liters of water with me, and I love my Nalgene. I know people will say, why are you bringing it? It's so heavy, but it was also nice when we went to Dunkin', and sometimes they would fill this instead of giving me a plastic cup, so I saved a plastic cup, so that was kind of nice. And I don't know, I just really like Nalgene, so I'm not going to stop carrying those. In my other feed bag, I actually did have snacks in there, so I'd keep like bars in there. I had poop bags for Misha because when she was running along the side of the cart, she would always go to the bathroom. I kept some candies in a Ziploc bag for quick energy and snacks. I had dog treats with me as well for her after she got done doing her workout. And also brought my Kula cloth. I didn't use this as much as I thought it was going to. In backpacking, I use it a lot more, but it's still nice to have. So if you have to go pee along the side of the road, you can use this instead of toilet paper, and then you don't have to worry about having to get rid of the toilet paper later. So these are $20 at REI and totally worth it if you're female hiking or biking. Really nice to have. I carried this thermos, so it's a 2-lined insulation thermos, and we would put ice water in it every day so that we could keep Misha's insulin cold. So I carried this on my bike. That was very nice. It kept it cold the whole entire day. And then in my handlebar bag, I would stuff this thing to the brim. So I do wish that I had something a little bit bigger than this, but it did serve its purpose. But I might look into something bigger for our next trip. Within that, I just had like hand sanitizer, chapstick, some gum, memory cards. We did get these mirrors for South Carolina and Georgia, which were super helpful. I know we didn't use them the whole entire time, but in the really high traffic areas of the East Coast Greenway, they were worth it and just made you feel a little bit safer. I also kept my headlamp in here, which I used all the time. Some paper. I had the same exact battery charger that Wiley had, so it's 30,000 milliamp hours, and we really liked these. We picked these up before the trip. And this is a waterproof case, and this came from the rack for Surly. So we ended up using it to keep our battery pack waterproof, which was nice to be able to reuse it. I have my East Coast Greenway buff, and then the buff that I brought with me on the trip. I use my buff a lot on the colder days. I liked covering my face. I don't know. I like buffs, so I always have a buff with me. I had, this was supposed to put on the top of my hair under my helmet, but I didn't end up using that. And my headlamp or headlight, but this is usually on the front of the bike. Extra GoPro batteries so we can switch out the GoPros quick. I carried the GoPro that was on the little tripod for some B-roll and stuff like that in my front bag. My spork, because you never know when you get the munchies and, you know, gotta stop for some food. You need easy access to your spork. And my $10 Walmart sunglasses. So that's everything I carried. Helmet-wise, I've had this helmet for 5-6 years, so I didn't get anything special for this trip. But the cool part about this helmet, and it didn't work on Wiley's, is that I could put my blinky light right on the back of the helmet, and I felt like it made better visibility. So I kind of liked that I was able to put it on the back of my helmet. We got these from Amazon as well, and they are rechargeable. Other than that, the only other thing, I didn't take it off the bike, was the cell phone holder, and Wiley had the same exact one. So we didn't have a fancy like bike computer or anything. So to track everything, I just used Map My Run. I know there's better apps out there, but that's the one that I was familiar with before we left. And then for the East Coast Greenway, we used the app maps.me. And it was pretty good. It worked pretty well. You can download it from the East Coast Greenway, and then you just have to convert the file so that it works with that application. So it worked, and it helped us get all the way from Maine to Florida. So in South Carolina and more south, we ran into 3 different thru bikers that were doing the East Coast Greenway, and they didn't know that you could download the app from eastcoastgreenway.org. So if you need any help or have any questions about that, feel free to message us in the comments below. So one thing I forgot to mention, and this was in my feed bag as well, is the DJI Pocket Osmo. We picked this up, 2 or 3 years ago, and it has been awesome. It doesn't have the best mic, but if you like to just record your adventures, whether it's for YouTube or for yourself, this thing is awesome. It has a built-in stabilizer, and it's so tiny you can put it in your pocket. And we tend to take this everywhere with us if we would just want to get some B-roll or, capture something without it being so invasive with a big, huge camera. So if you're into like hiking or biking and you want to be able to capture some of it, I highly recommend. And the last piece of gear is our most important piece of gear. So my luxury item was a 68-pound Siberian Husky. We could have definitely biked a lot faster and had a lot less gear if she wasn't with us, but she's a very big part of our family, and we didn't want to have to leave her for a couple months at my parents' house. So we bought a Burley tail wagon trailer, and this thing was awesome. It lasted all 3,000 miles, and as you can see, she's obsessed with it and loves it. And for a 68-pound dog and a 75-pound capacity for the trailer, it held up like a champ.
Yep, and we didn't load it down with anything other than a collapsible water bowl. And this is a tarp. Just in case it started raining, we wanted something to quickly be able to cover her trailer with so she didn't get wet. The wheels come off, so clearly right now the wheels are not on it, and we actually have it just sitting in our living room, and she uses it like a dog crate. She's in it every single day. So we feel bad folding it up and putting it away, so we'll probably leave it out.
The only thing we added to it was a dog bed that we just got at PetSmart. It's a couple inch mat, and just to make the ride a little bit more comfortable for her because the trailer didn't have any suspension, but she's pretty happy with it. And lastly, we added an extra light to hers too, just so she had more visibility.
So if you're thinking about doing a bike tour with your dog and you want to learn a little bit more about it, including kind of the mechanics and what's the strategy behind what's going on with ours and our trip, stay tuned because we're going to make a video where we actually review this trailer, show you how it hooks up to the bike, how the wheels hook up, the things we like about it, and the things we would change if we had a chance to design our own. So definitely check that out. That's coming soon. All right, so we hope that you found our gear review helpful. Again, it's coming from a couple of first-time through bikers. We are not experts, and by this point, if you're still watching, you've probably figured out we're not making this video for the ultralight crowd. We just wanted to be self-sufficient so that the three of us could do a trip from Maine to Florida, and we made it.
If you have any questions pertaining to any of the gear that we have, leave a comment below and we'll get back to you. Also, if you have any questions about the ECG, we were so fortunate to meet so many people that work and volunteer for the East Coast Greenway, and it is such a wonderful organization, and we are so glad we met them that we just want to tell everyone about the East Coast Greenway. It was an amazing trip, and more people should bike it. Should I say panniers?
Panniers.
Or
Yeah.
I'll just say, okay, take two. I had a. Can you get her to stop snoring?
But we did have 2 of these in our van, so I figured my luxury item was going to be a camp chair, so I could relax, be comfy anytime we got to a campground or a beach or anything like that. So I might have used it twice, and so Dre's not letting me live that down. Probably wasn't necessary to carry it on my bike, but I did, and I had the option to mail it home, but I stuck it out. I figured if I carried it as far as I did, I wasn't gonna turn around and send it home, so I brought it to the finish line.